right. Hello. I am here to present my findings in my for my leadership interview paper. So basically, um, the goal of this assignment was to interview three leaders that you know, and then for me, what I took it as was a learning opportunity because I'm hopefully one day will also become a leader of an organization or a company or manager, something of that nature. And so this assignment was mostly used for me for future benefit and for learning purposes. So for me, the three leaders that I chose, and whenever I interviewed them, I gave them all the opportunity to have um, their names be anonymous and their companies, and they chose to do so. Not because they just, since they had the option, they chose to do so. So my first interview was actually a sales manager. He works for a company um, that that sells preventative car maintenance additives and things like that. And they're actually the number one preventative maintenance is what they are known for in terms of for cars. They're actually the number one company in the world for that. What he does is he manages the Kentucky area and then a little bit outside of that, a little bit in Ohio, things like that. So he manages, and he has a lot of sales reps that go around and do the selling, and he manages them and is their leader. And I've known him for about a year, and so I asked him to do the interview, and he gave me some really good info. Things like how he works with many different age ranges. He has some employees that are in their 20s, and then he's got some that are even in their 50s. And that's not they'll hire people outside of that category older, but right now he works with 20 through 50, and he's actually in his 40s. Um, Basically, their organization is built a lot around family, where they try to push, if you're selling to someone, then you want to treat them like family because you want to, you don't want to oversell them, you don't want to undersell them, you want to be business partners with them is what they want to do. And so his leadership style is he's really big on getting to know all of his employees on a personal basis, and he likes to talk to them on the phone daily. And basically that's what he tries to do. And he does a really great job. He's known for hitting his quotas in terms of sales numbers and everything every year. He's really great at that. All of his reps are great, and they go through a lot of training, in which case he actually will go and ride around with them and basically show them how to do the job the way that he would do it. And then they kind of fill in the holes and what they how they would do things differently and make it their own sort of deal. But he's always there to be a leader and to be a reference and to help them out. Basically, he said that his job is more of a people oriented. It does have some tasks, but it is a lot more people oriented than anything, because you're obviously dealing with people on a daily basis, and trying to make sales and improve your numbers and try to help them out. You're essentially business partners with whoever you're selling to, and so that's what he said. And he said there is a decent amount of stress with his position, being that he is the manager and he has so many people. But one thing that he did say was that his company actually allows him a certain number of allotted days for paid time off that is separate from vacation. And it's essentially just, I believe it's 2 or 3 days per year, where if he's just really stressed out, has a rough day, he can take that time and deal with that stress. So that's my first interview. My second interview is actually a small business owner, and I've known him for a very long time. He owns a business that he co-owns a business that goes into factories, or they've even had work in Disney World where they go in and they've repaired a ride. They basically go and replace parts, and they try to get contracts with places and go in there and do whatever they need him to do. And mostly it's maintenance for the place, mostly factories. So his leadership style is a little bit different because his position is a little bit different. He, as I said, he's actually the owner of the business, and so he's not a area manager. He is the entire manager or leader. And so, obviously he's got different stresses too. His stresses come from trying to get new business and just general complications that can come with that. If you're going into places and trying to repair things, there's obviously going to be complications here and there. So that's what kind of stresses him out. He doesn't necessarily have to, he doesn't have to request time off, being that he is the boss, he is the owner. So if he gets super stressed out, as many people would in that position, he has the opportunity to just take some time off on his own behalf. And that's just kind of a need to basis for him. Let's see, his main values that he told me for the company was teamwork, because they do have a large number of guys that go in and build parts or repair parts, and they've all got to work together. They've all got to come together as a collective and get all their work done together. Otherwise, they all fail. And so teamwork was something huge. And obviously building upon that is the accountability aspect of it. You got to be accountable if people are relying on your work to get done for them all to be successful. So that was something that he preached pretty heavily to me as well. He said that his job was more of a 50-50 in terms of people oriented and task oriented. That makes sense, because for him, he's got to go in and get all this new business. And that is a large part of it. But once you have that business, then the main goal shifts from, dealing with the people that are trying to give you the business, or you're trying to get the business from. And it then shifts to completing the tasks that they've laid out for you with you having that business. So, that's kind of a little bit of a difference between the two of them. When it comes to motivating his workers, he gives bonuses based on number one, their successes and their time with the company as well. So it's something where it encourages people to stick with the company for longer, and it also encourages them to be successful within the company. In terms of my last interview, I actually interviewed a pastor at my local church, which was I felt a very important interview, because they're all different. One is a regional manager, one is a owner of a business, and the other is a nonprofit organization leader who actually doesn't have his own employees, but he has a following, a community following. So it was a different look on his behalf. And so whenever I, was speaking to him about it, some of the things that he explained was how, there is stresses that he has because of, well, a lot of it has to do with the current political climate. And he's got to really make sure that his messages are not too political one way or the other, because his job obviously is to spread the message of the Lord to as many people as he can. And if you immediately alienate one side or the other in terms of political aspects, then you're going to eliminate half of your audience, and that's not the goal. The goal of the church is to unify people, not divide them. So that's something that stresses him out. He also said that if he gets too stressed out, he has a certain number of allotted days. I don't know the exact number, but he said he has a certain number of days allotted per year that he can take some time off and deal with the stresses that come from that. They obviously, in terms of their organization, they also emphasize the family aspect and really the community aspect. They really want to encourage people to come together as a collective and do great things for the community. They try to help out with their tithes and offerings that people give, and they'll help out people that are in need in the community and things like that. They use a lot of prayer, obviously, being that it's a church, to try to deal with the conflicts and the stresses and the problems that they have. They pray on them, and they try to, deal with that in that way. So it was really important for me, again, to get the three different types of leaders, but all very important and really, really great leaders in their fields. So some of the things that I noticed in terms of similarities to what the interviews told me and things that we've learned in class is actually the first one relates to chapter 4, which speaks on the job satisfaction. So what I noticed first was about all three of these people is that they all have personal relationships with either their employees or followers. That's something that they all stress is that they get to know their people really well outside of the church or outside of work. And this relates to chapter 4, as I said, because it speaks on job satisfaction, and it's proven that if the employees, or in this case for the church, in the church's case, the followers, um, if they are more satisfied, their productivity will go up. And for the church, again, they may be more invested, they may follow more, they may spread the word more, which is again their goal. So if people are satisfied and they feel as if their boss or leader, really cares for them, then that's going to up their productivity level or following or whatever the leader or boss is trying to get them to do. If they're more satisfied and they feel like they're more cared for, then they're typically going to do a much better job. So that was the first thing that I noticed. The second thing that I noticed actually has to do with their positional power to lead, which this relates to chapter 7, which talks all about positional power. And all these leaders have referent power. I would say, especially the small business owner and the pastor, because people follow them and they want to emulate them. They want to be more like them. They want to be more successful, or they want to be more successful in terms of following the Lord and doing the teachings in that way. And they also all have legitimate power, meaning that they have the power to make decisions for the organization or the community. And this is, very important, because if you have the positional power, you have the legitimate power, then you're obviously a lot more likely for people to want to follow you and to trust you and to feel as if your word means something, because it does. Um, Going back to the stresses, I related this because there was a few questions that I asked about stress. I related this to chapter 15, which discusses all about stress in general. And basically, stress is the difference between the demand placed on the people and their ability to cope with the demands and reach their goals. And so, obviously, in a lot of instances, especially with them being the leaders, they have a lot of additional pressure that employees don't typically have. And so, they all, one thing that I found that they all said was that they have some opportunity in one way or another to take some time off if they're too stressed. Because as we know from the reading in chapter 15, it shows that if people are really, really stressed out, their productivity goes way down, and it actually ends up losing the company money over time. And it actually said in the chapter that in terms of all the companies and corporations as a whole, billions of dollars a year are lost due to the productivity that is lost from stresses. And so obviously, it's something that a little bit of time off can really help out with. And I thought that was really nice that they all had that opportunity. I realize not everyone does, but I feel like that may be a part of the reason why they are so successful in being leaders, because they have that opportunity to take a step back and deal with their stresses and do what they need to do. So, in terms of, and this was specifically with my first two interviews, I can relate this one to chapter 10, which talks about teams. So, in the first two interviews, I said they are team-based organizations where the um, business manager has a team of guys, and their success all depends on one another, because they need, to make their state um, sales deadlines. And so, if one guy, one rep, doesn't do his job, then it hurts all of them. And so that's where his leadership comes into play, because he's got to make sure that everyone's doing their job and they know how to do their job. Um, what it discussed in chapter 10 was work groups and work teams. So work groups, they share information with each other, but they don't necessarily have a common goal. Whereas work teams rely on each other for the collective success. And this is obviously a difficult type of thing to manage. And so that's why, again, my hat goes off to these guys entirely, because they, they're doing a great job of what they do. Um, and the fact that they're able to pull it off is truly amazing to me. So that was something nice to learn, and kind of see their strategies. Where again, it goes back to them creating those bonds and actually going out and working with them in the field. Um, Both of them, they go out on the field with their employees and they'll train them or just help them out and build that relationship and show them how to properly do what they need to be doing. And finally, whenever I look at chapter 6, whenever it just defines leaders as a whole, um, it really showed me that even though, relating specifically more to my first interview, that even though his title is a manager, he is a leader, because he inspires the people that work for him. He inspires them to meet their goals, to improve themselves, and just be better as a whole. He's not one of those sales guys that just pushes, selling, 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 no matter what. He wants people to be done right. He wants to help the people that he's selling to, and he teaches them that. A lot of guys, if they needed to meet their numbers, they'd say to their guys, just sell no matter what, and he doesn't do that. And I think that speaks volumes as to why people trust him, why people respect him, and why they want to work for him. So just to kind of wrap it up here, interviewing these men, I know it sounds kind of corny, but it really truly was inspiring for me, because as I said, I really I aspire to be a leader one day with a company or organization, and watching these guys and seeing how they handle leading just gave me a great example, and it gives me a great reference. And knowing that I have these three people that I can go to as mentors, um, thanks to this assignment, is invaluable. So, I definitely learned a lot from this assignment, and hope I was able to convey my my learnings and things that I picked up on. So, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.